What's up, everybody? Welcome to the All Elite Wrap-Up. It's me, Tom, the OG Fig Kid, and joining me this week, this guy.
Live from the No Cell Studios, it's the ace of the tavern, Stephen Acefield. It's just the two of us. I know we promised that we'd have the full crew back together, but maybe next week. We miss you, Mike Belcaster, but we have a great episode of Dynamite to break down for you guys. I appreciate you guys watching.
Yes, we do miss you, Mike, and, he'll be back next week. Unfortunately, life happens, and we got us here, so listen, it'll be a fun show. It was a fun Dynamite. It's good to be here. Let's just go down and let's bang it out real fast before we get into everything. Guys, theturnbuckletavern.com. Go there. Follow us everywhere you possibly can. Like, subscribe, leave us some reviews. We appreciate it. Join the Discord when you're done with that. It's the first link. There's no Discord picture here, so I can't put it on. But join the Discord. Come talk to us there. Come hang out, watch wrestling, talk wrestling. It's just a lot of fun. When you're done, leave a message for us. They'll play it on a flagship show, 304-404-2004. Let us know what you think of the show, our show, their show. Who doesn't like to hear themselves on the radio or a podcast, right? Isn't it fun, Ace? So.
It's true. I mean, I have not called myself yet, but it's in the list of things to do. And if you guys haven't yet, get your voice heard on the tavern and they'll play it right on the flagship show and they'll agree, disagree. It will be your spot on the show. So why not?
Yeah, there you go. And then when you're done with that, go buy a shirt. Go buy it. Go to prowrestlingtees.com/tavern. Support us. There's so many shirts you can choose from there. And if that's not enough for you, when you're done there, head on over to Teespring. The link is on theturnbuckletavern.com. We've got mugs. We've got glasses. Anything you can imagine. Check it all out. But let's get into this Dynamite tonight because I thought it was an absolute amazing Dynamite. What's up, Sam D? Oh, there we go. We got Nick Storm. He's alive. I can't believe it. He's been freed from a kangaroo down in Australia. We got Tyson. What's up, Tyson? Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We do appreciate your support. So what an ending to Dynamite. Let's just start with the end. Dude, I love an ending like this. We don't get many endings where it ends like in chaos anymore. Absolutely loved it. So many stories to be told out of it. Let's start. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, let's just start with the main thing here. And MJF was hinting the face turn. He's been hinting at it for the last few weeks. And I thought it was one of those cliffhanging endings that was kind of akin to what we see on WCW Nitro. And I know I always go back to 1996 because Mike Belcaster and I are like knee deep in 1996, about to finish the year. But this was very similar. It leaves you wanting more. It leaves you wanting to get to the next week's episode. And we haven't had that very often in 2022 wrestling, not just AEW. We can be critical of that, but nowhere else are they doing this cliffhanging ending. And I think it needs to be done more often. And I'm left asking more questions than the answers I have. And that's sometimes a good thing. We want to know what MJF is going to be doing.
Cliffhangers leave you wanting to come back. It brings more people back next week than if you have a clean finish. Let's get some more cliffhangers. It's what's missing in wrestling today. Is MJF, he came like, I love the whole, should I go out there? Shouldn't I go out there? Then he comes running out there. Is he a face? What's he going to say next week? We saw him tell Stokely he was fired. I love it. I think this helped build Ethan Page. I think this helped the firm because honestly, I didn't care about the firm that much up until tonight. To me, this made them more interesting in my eyes.
Yeah, the firm definitely had this like geek feel to them, that they were just the henchmen for MJF, and at any time they could be let go. They weren't even associated with MJF. They were just on retainer, as they said. So they were being paid by MJF, but this gave them their own little edge and character to say they have their own intentions and their own aspirations inside this AEW universe. And Stokely Hathaway is an underrated character that's behind the scenes scheming and giving out those cards. That was the main story that felt like it was ignored until MJF got involved. Yeah, I mean, I guess the question we all have to ask, and I know there's been some criticism about how they did this tonight. I mean, let's just break it down move by move. If you guys missed Dynamite, that's why you guys are here. The firm hit the ring after the match. Obviously, Mox beat Penta to retain the title. Nobody thought Penta was retaining. We had W. Morrissey, the Gun Club, Ethan Page, Lee Moriarty all came out, laid out Moxley, beat the crap out of him. They showed the door of the Blackpool Combat Club locked, so they knew they couldn't get out. Which I also thought was just a side note. Very good that they said they'd all be in the room together because they have to talk about their differences. That was a really nice nugget of information they gave us during that Bryan Danielson Wheeler Yuta thing. Did you catch that, Tom?
Yes, I thought that was awesome also.
Yeah, that was something that, like, if you didn't see, I mean, it made sense because you were like, well, why would all of them be in the locker room together? Well, they're in there hashing out their differences, and it was a perfect time for the firm to strike.
Yeah, Claudio just mentioned it a little earlier in the show. Like, actually, when the first show first started, right after the first match, he's like, we'll talk about this after your match later. So they set it up perfectly. Everything made sense. Like, the way they did it, everything absolutely made sense. And you know what? Not only do you build, like, interest for people to come back next week, but you're building future story for after Full Gear. Like, is that when MJF's going to start feuding with them? How is this going to affect that match? Like, you know, it's exciting shit, man. I love not knowing where it's going. Like, I'm so there for this.
And you could feel the tension building with the audience. They were chanting for MJF. Security came out. Obviously, they couldn't take care of the firm, so they got beaten up. Moxley had a brief comeback, so he thought he would squash the firm. That didn't happen. Stokely got in there. Then MJF had this plight of consciousness at the top of the ramp where he's like, I want to run down, but didn't. So I like that as well, that he's not going full-blown babyface just yet. He still has a decision that he wants to make. He has, I guess, this decision to make every time he's out there. His intentions and his instinct is to do the dastardly things in the ring, whether it be using the Dynamite Diamond ring, hitting a low blow, cheating to win. All that stuff is going to be storytelling throughout the next couple of weeks to see if he could stay true to doing it the right way, because it seems like William Regal struck a chord in him. He wants to prove that he is worth that AEW championship, and this is the perfect way to turn him face. And I know there's been some criticism because you want it to be done naturally. Sometimes it's going to feel a little bit unnatural because MJF, who he is as a character, it's hard to go from where he was, you know, making fun of Brian Pillman for his dad dying, and then also taking low blow shots at everybody, to being a guy they cheer for. So you have to find that fine line and make that sharp left turn. And I think this was okay this week.
Oh, I love it. And the other thing is MJF really turning face, or is he just trying to protect Mox for the match because he wants to beat him fairly? Like, that's a whole question that's in there too. You know,
I'm very intrigued by all this. I mean, if this is just the plan of MJF, we've seen this before in the Punk feud where he showed this vulnerability to the crowd. He cut that really awesome promo about being this bullied child, and wrestling made him feel better about himself, and everyone was behind him. And then the next week we saw what happened, where he bloodied CM Punk to a pulp and then challenged him to a dog collar match. And I don't know if that's happening again, but I'm locked into this. I am empathizing with MJF's struggle here, because he wants to be this, whatever. He calls himself a generational talent, but it seems like he actually wants to prove it than just say it.
Yeah. I love it. He is. And again, like I said, we don't know for a fact. Is he doing it because I don't think he's doing it to be a face. He's doing it because he wants to show people he could beat Mox cleanly. He wants a healthy Mox in there. And I love how they laid out MJF. And even more importantly, did you see how he sold the big power bomb from Morrissey? Like, beautiful job of selling by the guy. This guy, like, he is a generational talent because he does it all. I thought the way he sold that was just beautiful. I love everything MJF does. And this is from a guy who, when I first started coming on the Tavern, I called him a dollar store version of The Miz. What a bad fucking take that was. Holy shit. Oh my God. I'll call myself out on that one.
The other thing I really enjoyed about this was Ethan Page being presented in a dangerous light. I guess the word would be, the adjective for him would be dangerous, where he was the one that put the boot into MJF's throat. MJF sold it like he was dead. So we've been clamoring for Ethan Page to have some spotlight here, and this may be the opportunity. I think he is the shining star of this group. You talk about W. Morrissey, obviously he's like 7 foot tall, but to me, if this group is going to have a main eventer to eventually feud with MJF for the title down the line, I think it's Ethan Page.
Oh, dude, I love Ethan Page. I've loved him since he came to AEW. I liked him in Impact. He was one of the few guys I actually followed over in Impact. So when he came here, we did the predictions on Hanging at the Tavern, and I predicted he would be the man in the ladder match when he debuted. And I absolutely love everything about him. I think this guy is such a star. I think he's so good. He's such a good heel. And it's funny, if you follow him on social media, he's the nicest guy in the world. So the way he can portray this character as a heel, he's so good at it. Like I would love to see an MJF and Ethan Page feud. Sign me up for that.
It would be a breath of fresh air and some different faces in the main event, and be the perfect first feud where MJF's not losing the title to someone like Ethan Page, but Ethan Page could definitely benefit from being involved in such a high stakes match, because we know, aside from that All-Atlantic Championship shot that he got, he's not really involved in anything meaningful in AEW. So that would be a huge launch point, and they have to keep the momentum after that. But to have that opportunity, I think Ethan Page has shown he can take that ball and run with it. I'm looking forward to that opportunity that eventually he should get, because the story is lending to it right now.
Yeah. And that, I had a thought, and but yeah, he's great, Ethan Page. I can't wait to see. Like now he has. I know what I was going to say. Now he has story built in with Mox, and now he has story built in with MJF. They could lead on after this. Like there's so many different directions this angle could go. Like MJF could come out next week and cut a promo, and they start cheering him, and he'll be like, "I just did this for myself because I told you I want to prove I want to beat Mox. Don't start cheering me. Like I am not here for you guys. I did it all for me," which would be a great way to go. Like I can't wait to see which way they go next week.
I just think Tony Khan has to be a little careful with the booking because obviously we had the Luchasaurus double turn. Daniel Garcia certainly feels like that will be a double turn down the line, whether it's 2 months from now or 6 months from now. I think Daniel Garcia eventually will be someone who turns on the JAS. And then if you have this, I don't know if it's too much too soon. And then also eventually when you want to have MJF be that super uber baby face to carry your company, you want to have some, it's not that it has to be done perfectly right now. It just has to have him. It seems like all the cards are on the table for him to be that main event babyface and have that moment at Full Gear. What's the benefit of having him turn back heel and join the firm? It's the same old story. I think I'd rather him take this new route, whether that path is where we need to get him to. It doesn't have to follow the same path as The Rock. I think everyone wants him to be The Rock with the catchphrases and all that stuff. It doesn't have to be that. It could be something different. MJF could trailblaze his way through these woods and find his own path. Because I think he is, like you said, he's a guy that is going to be remembered for being himself. And this may be his path that he's going down. This may be his moment to be the main event baby face that we're going to be getting.
Yeah, I love it. And you know what? Let him follow his own line. He doesn't need to be a face. He doesn't need to be heel. Just be MJF. And by doing the things he does, he's going to get cheered. And even tonight, he was getting cheered, and he was kind of playing that. I wouldn't say he was playing a face, but he was leading into the cheers. But then he drops a little line in there when he made a little dig towards Virginia.
Yeah, he said, "Despite your shortcomings, I still love you."
Yes. And that let him keep it up because you know what? The way he's acting, people are still gonna love when he makes those comments. Like people are gonna want to be insulted by MJF. So.
Yeah, and then I guess with time you move away from taking those shots. But again, I know I just said not to compare him to The Rock and Austin, but it's the only thing we have to look at a guy who was the ultimate heel to being a baby face. And I think Austin is probably a better example with that double turn at WrestleMania 13 with Bret Hart. I think Full Gear could be that moment for MJF where, you know, not just MJF being a face, we may be able to get a heel Mox. We have yet to get that in AEW. And we know how good of a heel Mox can be. We've seen it in the past. We know he has an edge to him. And that could be a breath of fresh air for his character to really light a fire under him. And I know he wants a vacation and all that stuff, but eventually a heel Mox would light the world on fire. I mean, I think there's a lot of story to be told with him being a bad guy. It hasn't been done yet.
A heel Mox, I'm there for it to see what he really could do as a heel, not a WWE version of a heel. I'm absolutely there for it. We have all this stuff going on with the Blackpool Combat Club. What's going to happen with them? I'm there for all this right now. I love the whole episode. It was one of the best episodes of Dynamite from start to finish. I was absolutely there for it. It just told beautiful stories throughout it. Everything was a story. We get that quick little vignette or that little promo package with the Elite.
All right, so let's get into the news because I think that's a perfect transition to do that. Let's play our little.
Setting you up. I was throwing you a softball there.
I want to play the nice little drop because we have so many beautiful drops that they put in here. So I think we have to just put, I don't know. Let's pick a good one. How about this?
Redeem these nuts.
All right, so let's get right into the news, and I'll put the little banner here. You guys can follow along. So just in case you missed some of the news, some of the things we've been talking about, let's start with the Elite that Tom alluded to. The Elite are officially set to return to AEW programming soon. So Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, we all know why they've been away. We don't have to get into the reasons why they've been suspended due to the brawl out fight after All Out in early September, but it's confirmed they're on their way back. We got a report earlier today via Fightful, but we also got further confirmation. I wish we could show you the video, but it would definitely flag us. But go check it out on Twitter. AEW shared it. A promo for the Elite aired during tonight's AEW's Dynamite episode. There was no return date mentioned, but the promo indicates the AEW World Trios champions, the first ever, will be back on TV shortly. It was reported by Fightful, as I mentioned, that Omega and the Bucks were expected to return to AEW imminently, at least in a backstage capacity under the roles of EVPs. So that was huge, huge news. I like that they did the Thanos snap where they had him disappearing from all those moments. It showed where Tony Khan was standing. He sides with, we'll get to their next news story, but he sides with the Elite. He understands their importance. And listen, I was playing that trumpet all the way through.
This is a story. they're bringing them back with a story about them being gone, and I'm here for it. Like, it wasn't just a clip. Oh, they're coming back. It was a clip of cutting them out. So this also has me believing, is this leading to, could this be a story with CM Punk in the future? Like, who knows? Like, there's so many possibilities. I can't wait to see where this goes. Like I love it wasn't like the Elites coming back or just like a picture of them. It actually showed them like disappearing, and then it showed the AEW logo disappearing. Like, it was, where is it going? This was a great, this is like the type of vignettes we haven't seen on AEW. It got me excited. This is the type of shit we want to see when people are coming back, when we haven't seen them for a while. Do it in a way that's going to make people tune in, and show us another one next week that maybe gives us another detail, just something a little more fun that gets us thinking, oh shit. Like I loved it. I absolutely loved the way they did it. I miss Kenny Omega on my TV. I missed the bad guy, the heel faction of the Elite. I can't wait to see where this goes, because they got me more pumped for them coming back with that little 30-second video. Like, I always wanted them back, but like, I'm more pumped for it now because they're coming back with a story.
Yeah, I mean, Fightful reported that Don Callis was backstage as well, so we know he's a mentor backstage. He has a role back there. He's involved in the commentary team, but man, it would be great to have him back with them, and you have a story set on a tee for them. Just say, you guys, we started this damn company. You guys were so soon to cut us out. And that's your story. You roll back in. It doesn't have to be a feud with Punk. It could be a feud with everybody else.
Exactly. It could be a feud with Punk, but it could be a feud. It could start a whole all friends wrestling feud. You guys all say this about us. Like, this could go anywhere. Where is it going to go? It doesn't rule out a story with Punk. It leaves so many different options. It's just wide open.
Yeah, and I think it's the best of the situation you can get, because we wanted them so badly to take that situation, Punk, and everybody get in a room and put their egos aside to make money off of an angle that could be monumental if everybody can put their egos aside.
It makes me have faith in Tony Khan that whether Punk is involved or not, they're going to do something with this whole angle.
This also shows the opinions of the locker room as well, and where the morale stands, because the fact that they came back with the tag of EVP and still have leadership positions after everything went down. And we heard murmurings throughout, different talent, not naming names, but there have been names that have been out there that have been highly critical of CM Punk's behavior. It seems like the only way that this could work is if, you know, the Elite come back and they're welcome with open arms. And I think at this point, CM Punk would not be, which leads us to the next story.
Yeah, and I just will say this: there's also rumors that the Bucks weren't getting along with everybody either. So,
yeah, but with the investigation, it seems like we'll see what happens. Obviously, they have been a lightning rod. Sammy Guevara, the same could be said about him. But at this point,
so many people can be said about at this point.
It seems at this point that there is a loyalty that Tony Khan probably sat, contemplated, and said, who is the heart and soul of AEW? Is it a guy like Punk who's been here for a temporary amount of time? Or is it the Bucks and Kenny Omega who, let's be honest, risked it all to come here and start the company? It is all Elite wrestling. The Elite were here. Whether you like them or not, they are at the core of the heart and soul of what AEW was as a vision. So, like, it was a no-brainer to me.
Okay, let's move on to the next story, because that kind of goes together.
Absolutely. So AEW and CM Punk are in talks to have a buyout the remaining years on his contract. So according to Dave Meltzer in this week's Past Wrestling Observer newsletter, this was also confirmed by Sean Ross Sapp. So it's not just a rumor.
It's a rumor.
We'll see what happens. But 100%. The news comes less than 2 months after Punk, as we know, Ace Steel, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega were involved in that huge melee backstage. We were live in Chicago for all that. Meltzer said neither Punk or AEW commented or denied the story. Meltzer also wrote that AEW and Punk were talking about the future, but it looks very doubtful he will be back. Those with close knowledge of the situation said they were in talks with Punk about a buyout of the remaining years, which tells you they are not looking to bring him back. The holdup right now is said to be a non-compete. So I asked you, Tom, non-compete certainly means that it doesn't seem like he's going to be going to New Japan Pro Wrestling. It doesn't seem like he's going to be going to Impact. Does he have his eyes on WWE? You think Punk wants to go back there?
No. And again, we're all going by rumors. There's no facts about any of this. This is all hearsay, guys. So I will not believe there's a buyout until it's announced.
How could you, I'm going to ask you this question. I know you're a Punk supporter. How could you facilitate getting Punk back in that locker room after everything that went down? How would you do it as a leader? How would you get him back in?
Because if you've worked this out and you've talked to all the parties involved, being the Elite, and you've talked to CM Punk, and you've got them all on the same page to turn everything that happened into a story that can make this company the best story this company's ever told and can make this company tons of money, why wouldn't you do it?
I mean, it's not that I wouldn't do it. It just seems like there's a lot of different personalities that wouldn't be supportive of having him in the locker room because people use the word like toxic.
But
he's cantankerous. He's someone who thinks he deserves more respect than he actually has earned in the AEW locker room. As far as ratings and stuff, he hasn't moved the ratings the way they probably wanted him to. So if you want to break down the numbers, he's not worth the trouble. That's what it seems like. And that's not even just my opinion. That feels like that's the majority of the people in the AEW world that make decisions. They don't feel like he's worth the squeeze.
Like I said, well, time will tell, but he's the #1 merch seller, the #1 money maker for this company. If they could turn this into a story, it would be a beautiful thing. But they would have to sit down and get them all on the same page. Hey, listen, this is it. Like, you do anything again, let's turn this into a story. Let's make this the best wrestling story we've ever told and one of the best wrestling stories ever told. I think Tony Khan would be there for that. And I think Kenny Omega likes money. I think the Young Bucks like money. And I think CM Punk likes money. So,
dude, again, it's certainly not impossible. We've seen people with bigger issues get into the ring and settle their differences. We've seen ultimately Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels buried the hatchet, and time does heal all wounds. And at this point, it's been 2 months. By the time Punk would be healthy, it'd be about 4 months that he'd be able to come back and be an active competitor. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he was able to get back and facilitate, but judging by the facts we have on the table, I know you're dealing with them and rumor and innuendo at this point, it doesn't seem like he'd be welcomed back. And with the way he left, it's so hard to get him back in. But we've seen people that hate each other get in the ring and put their differences aside and work. So it's not that they can't do it. I think everybody involved is professionals. They've been involved in professional wrestling for their whole adult lives. So it's not like I'm saying they couldn't get in the ring and do it. I'm not that naive. I know they want to make money, but as far as is it worth the difference that you're going to be having with Punk as far as the other people, the example it sets that someone can go out there and do what he did and be welcomed back in a main spot.
But if they've talked it, like, obviously there had to be a lot of work that went into this to get it squashed and get them to work together. And I like, we've heard rumors that people can't stand the Young Bucks. That's rumors. That's why Cody left. They were not talking anymore. We've heard other wrestlers rumors, if you want to believe dirt sheets, which a lot of people love. We've heard other rumors that other wrestlers call All Friends Wrestling, and unless you're friends with the Bucks or whatever, like, these are all rumors. They were saying that locker room was toxic for months. That CM Punk wasn't even there, so you can't even blame that on him when he was out with the first injury.
I'm not saying he's the only toxic trait there, and I think it's an example of bad leadership that Tony Khan has exemplified for a long time here. And it's not just Punk's fault. Punk was allowed to do this, have this behavior at the press conference, in the locker room, say the things he wants, and have these little cliques develop with little packs of people that have different ideologies of how they want to handle situations. My beef with Punk was him coming in and burying the other talent. It's fine to be upset, but to go in that platform, not that I want to have that large conversation now. You guys got to go back months ago and hear us talk about it, because Tom and I both definitely have our opinions out there on it. I just don't like that a guy like Hangman, who really didn't deserve to be buried like that. I mean, for what Punk endured in that promo, it was nothing compared to what was said elsewhere. That Hangman thing, the workers' rights promo, is not worth what he endured later on by saying he never did anything in the business. Fuck that.
Well, he really hasn't done anything in the business.
I mean, that's just false. I mean, that is just a false statement.
Done at the needle moving in the business that's going to leave him?
He was a part of a movement of AEW. He is a world champion, main event matches, New Japan Pro Wrestling, part of the Elite, part of the Bullet Club, part of Ring of Honor.
I give him more credit than most people for his title run, but a lot of people say his title run was lackluster.
It's not his fault that he's being booked that way. That's a whole other conversation.
I definitely agree with that. He should have definitely been on TV more during his title run. And that is not, and he actually came out and said that himself during his title run. He wanted to wrestle. So, and those are words from him. And you know what? Unfortunately, them not booking him right hurts his legacy.
Yeah, we still have a lot. Hopefully, we have a lot more years left. Obviously, we see it can end like that, and he's out for a significant amount of time. And update on that, he's said to be doing really well. He tweeted today that he's feeling better, so he's in concussion protocol. We will see if he can get back and get back at it. We'll see how long he's out, but that head stuff can be really scary. Yeah, but you mentioned television. Let's talk about Warner Brothers Discovery. And there was huge news that dropped. Reportedly, they want a long-term deal with AEW, and they plan to promote them as a sport. So on John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight podcast, there was a conversation about Warner Brothers and Discovery running AEW ads during sports programming. If you've been watching the MLB playoffs, many ads have been airing during this. You mean the Yankees and Astros? There's about 1 million AEW ads.
And
which
not only that, there was a Dynamite ad behind home plate.
Yeah, true.
Wow. That's amazing.
So Pro Wrestling Spotlight co-host Bob Smith wondered about the strategy, including footage of people going through tables and Chris Jericho attacking ring announcers and trying to angle it as a sport. And Arezzi said they're trying to make it a sport. That's what the strategy is. The strategy is that they're pushing AEW into the sports category, not the entertainment category. He continues that about how valuable they are to the brand. And he's had said, everything I hear of what's going on, even with TNT, it's going to be turning into a more sports-centric network. So they're putting their resources behind these promo announcements to increase ratings. So whether or not they're tasteful in regards to the violence and the blood, that's a method to the madness. And he finally said, I'm privy to a lot of insider conversation, at least on the Warner Brothers Discovery side. I have a lot of people in their very high executive positions that I've known for many years. I worked for them when I was in television in Nashville. The same people who are now the leaders of Warner Brothers Discovery on the ad sales front. They say they see this property AEW as someone they want to be in business with long term. They had a contract which was absorbed by them when they merged and which wasn't the sweetest deal for TNT. It was very one-sided. Continued. Main point is, there were some conversations we were on here all doom and gloom, raining on AEW, saying the booking is going to be trouble for them in these negotiations coming forward.
No. I never.
You were not. I understand that. Okay. You were a ray of sunshine. You were a ray of sunshine. You were saying it's going to be fine. Everyone should be okay. Now this seems like confirmation. It seems like beginning of 2023, we're going to get a long-term deal. But if you read through the tea leaves here and understand being promoted as a sport, I know that they talk about rankings, they talk about titles meaning something. I'm skeptical. I'm sure you're skeptical of the presentation, but how would they go about changing the product? Because it seems like there's a lot more sports entertainment than they originally anticipated when we first started this company.
Let's be honest. Professional wrestling needs sports entertainment. It needs stories. It needs drama to get us to continue watching each and every week. Does it not?
I agree with you 100%.
Now let's go back and let's look at all the Dynamites since All Out, and they've definitely seemed more pro wrestling centric. Even though the stories are getting a lot better, I feel like the shows have been different since All Out. I feel like you're starting with the world title tournament. Like, I feel like they're focusing on the wrestling as well as telling stories. I think they're finding a really good balance right now. And you know what? Let's be honest. At the end of the day, I don't care if they call it sports. I don't care if they call it wrestling. I don't care if they call it entertainment. Just make it good. We all know it's wrestling. Everybody who watches it knows it's professional wrestling. And the people who want to watch it are going to watch it. It doesn't matter what they call it. And if you tell good stories, you're going to get more people to tune in.
Yeah, and I think right now they're doing a good job, like you said, of blurring both things together and having the sports entertainment part blend with the in-ring competition. I think no one is on par.
That it feels different since All Out?
100%. It feels like they have more of a direct focus. The other stuff seemed disjointed, and I'm not sure it's because they didn't know where they wanted to go. And there was a lot of uncertainty with the Punk stuff. He got hurt first, and then obviously everything went to hell with that whole the melee after the scrum. So they had this, like, they didn't know where they were going. So I feel like Moxley getting the title again, having this straight path of this is where we want to go. And obviously we talk about Forbidden Door too. That was another thing that threw a wrench into their plans because they didn't know who was going to be available for Forbidden Door. Remember all the injuries we had. Bryan Danielson was out.
And Triple H
got hurt after
appearing.
So I think right now it seems like there is the main guys, knock on wood, aside from Hangman getting hurt, they're just involved in their main storylines. They're able to stay focused. The JAS and Blackpool stuff is really hitting its stride. And I think it's been a very well drawn out story that people are really getting invested in. There's a lot of different legs to it. And the world title can even be pulled into it, obviously with Moxley being involved.
That's true.
There's a lot of different stories that can be intertwined together. And I also love what they're doing with the tag division. I know you and I are going to talk about it when we get to FTR losing to Swerve in Our Glory.
Ugh.
But I do enjoy that the tag division finally feels like there's a couple of contenders that are finally involved and they're all kind of entangled. So I do like that they're actually, and All Atlantic Championship has some story to it as well.
Yeah, dude, they've been doing such a better job of telling stories since All Out. And each week I feel like it's getting better and better and better. So, I mean, I'm here for it. This is what's going to get the ratings up. You could bring all the big name people and you want any wrestler, any CM Punk, any Bryan Danielson. But if you don't tell a story that's going to keep people tuned in every week, how are you going to grow ratings?
It's just got to be reliable content that people can know they're going to tune in and see their favorites. I think not even so much story, and I think story plays a huge part. It's consistency of being able to tune in and see your favorites. If I'm a Bryan Danielson fan, a casual fan from WWE that wants to see my favorite that came over to AEW, there's weeks he disappears. He's been on TV weekly now.
Yeah, but
that wasn't the case months ago.
But do you want to see Bryan Danielson just weekly wrestling random matches, or do you want to see him wrestling weekly in stories leading to these?
I think you can have both. They're not mutually exclusive to each other. I think he's involved right now in story, and he's in TV every single week, whether he's wrestling matches. He's at least at ringside for some of the BCC stuff. Yep. You're seeing guys, and you're seeing the main guys. And I think right now we have consistency of the main roster, and they finally have these main players sorted out that they're going to be on Rampage and also on Dynamite on a weekly basis. And for so long that was missing. You'd have gaps of time where you wouldn't see some of these guys, and that was frustrating for fans. It had to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fun. I love what's going on with Bryan Danielson. I love every aspect of the Blackpool Combat Club right now. I love.
So the last thing for the news, and you guys could see the other stories that go across the bottom, but I want to get to this main thing and get your opinion on it, Tom. We had Tony Khan on his weekly spot on Busted Open Radio. He's been getting barbs from Eric Bischoff for a long period of time. He's been ignoring them. He's been asked about them, but he kind of just says he's entitled to his opinion. He finally lashed out at Eric Bischoff today, and he had said Eric Bischoff's comments and critique of AEW has been incendiary, contradictory, and hypocritical. So the main argument that Bischoff's making is that the storytelling doesn't make any sense. There's too many random matches. And Mike Belcaster and I have been saying on a weekly basis, we watched every goddamn episode of 1996 Nitro. There's a lot of the same stuff. So the mistakes that Tony Khan's making, he learned it from Eric Bischoff. And the funny quote, it felt like they were speaking right to us. And this is from Tony Khan at the Busted Open Radio interview. Frankly, the person that's been the most incendiary, contradictory, and hypocritical on this entire point is Eric Bischoff. And then Khan was explaining to them that the good WCW Nitros, and good in quotes, from 1995 to 1998 featured random lucha matches and other expected pairings. He also just talked about how not every match needs to have a long storyline built into it to what's taking place. It just doesn't need to be the case for every single match. So I'm sure that's going to be hit with a lot of vitriol on everybody's part, because everybody's been banging the drum for storytelling and all that. But if you want to talk about this being a sport product, there doesn't always have to be story in sports, right? I mean, we watch sports. Sometimes it's just a team versus a team.
Stories make them better.
Of course. But sometimes the team versus team just is out there. I mean, with Mox and Penta,
you could have
perfect example of just a good match.
You could have a 5-star match, but what makes a 5-star match even better is when it's culminating an amazing story.
Not disputing that at all, but I just don't understand why AEW is held to that standard while every other company isn't. They're just not. Nobody talks about Raw and SmackDown.
I mean, I don't mind it. I guess people are critical of it because they do it more than other companies. And it used to be like there'd be a whole episode full of those kind of matches. What's happened the last couple of months, you can't really say the same thing anymore. I think it's unfair to say that AEW is doing that now.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we're going to get things like Juice Robinson coming in. We're going to get, back in the day, Nick Gage came in, Mance Warner, all that stuff. That's straight from Eric Bischoff's playbook. So like it or not, Eric Bischoff has done the same thing. And the proof is in the footage. You can go back on the Peacock Network and watch all these Nitros and watch him bring in all these different guys on one-offs from Japan, from AAA. These guys are doing the exact same thing that he's critical of Tony Khan doing, and it worked for WCW. So if Tony Khan grew up as a diehard WCW fan, he only has this one way. It's very evident that he wants Dynamite to be a modern-day Nitro, as a different pace setter than Raw. He didn't want to be Monday Night Raw. You can definitely tell he had his fandom within WCW and Turner and all that stuff, because the booking is evident. The way it's presented from the jump was a Nitro feel. It really was.
Okay. I didn't watch Nitro, so I can't really comment on it.
But I mean, the thing is, I think it probably bothers Tony that Eric Bischoff is someone that's out there, and Eric has a platform, and deservedly so. He's done a lot in the business, but we know Bischoff has made a few special appearances. He's been involved in AEW in a small capacity, but he's been very critical in the last couple of months on the interviews and podcast appearances. But maybe that's just him financially trying to be involved and say, if you want a mind involved, get me involved. That's like the best way. Like we saw Road Dogg with that was critical of AEW trying to get involved in backstage stuff. So
Dude,
maybe that's Eric Bischoff's strategy here.
what was the name of Eric Bischoff's first book?
Controversy creates cash.
That's all I need to say.
Yeah, true.
That's all I need to say.
You're right. But it's just like, dude, I don't know. WCW was a trailblazer in a lot of ways, and they do a lot of things. Reality-based programming started with the New World Order and the things they were doing, and then WWF took it and ran with it. They did the Pillman stuff with Stone Cold, and then the Attitude Era just took what they were doing with Stone Cold, with the beer truck and all the stuff outside of the ring, and amplified it to a level that we haven't seen. But the initial groundbreaking moment was done in WCW. They're the Trailblazers.
Okay.
All right. You ready to get into Dynamite? Talk about all the stuff that went on? I guess you and I would just pick our pieces to talk about here.
Yeah, man. It was a freaking fun episode.
Let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go. What a fun episode. I loved it. First of all, real quick before we get into the deep stories, I thought Renee seemed the most natural tonight. She seemed settled into her role. I thought she was a star in everything she did tonight. That's the first couple of weeks, I thought it kind of felt uncomfortable or something, but tonight I'm like, okay, she's getting into the groove again. You know, she hadn't done it in a couple years. Bravo to Renee. Her facials, everything she did was just brilliant tonight. So I'm so glad to have her. I think it helps the whole backstage segments. I kind of hope they use her for hosting a pre-show for the pay-per-views like she used to do, because she's so good at that. So she's just so freaking good. I just wanted to say that really quick.
I agree with you. And I think that there's a lot to be said about her doing that podcast on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. She's gained even more poise than we last saw her in WWE. She has a different presence on screen. You mentioned the facials on screen where she's reacting to what's being said, and she's being portrayed as a big deal. And I'm not saying they're a mean Gene, but it's someone who feels like a big deal. And Tony Schiavone was double dipping. He'd have to be at ringside and then doing this as well. And Schiavone obviously has his own way of doing things, and he's a legend in his own right. But if she's replacing Marvez altogether, Alex Marvez has no place backstage doing whatever he's doing. He's horrendous, by the way. I don't know how he has a job. Horrendous.
I agree. I definitely agree.
What does this guy do? Like, can someone in the comments, someone talk about Alex Marvez and justify his placement on the card?
I could have went on there and done as good a job as Alex Marvez.
100%. Like, she presents herself in a very professional, journalistic way that hasn't been seen on Dynamite at all. And even in Tony Schiavone, I love him, but Tony Schiavone's Tony Schiavone. He does it in his own way. Renee Paquette, Renee Moxley, Renee, whatever you want to, Renee Goodman, Renee Good, whatever. The way she presents herself as a character, as an interviewer, it has this different level of professionalism. It feels like it's an important 60 minutes interview. It feels very on top of the hot button issues.
I loved her facials with MJF. I loved her in between Saraya and Britt Baker tonight. I thought she was just gold tonight.
She was great, and they utilized her in the best way. I thought the MJF segment was the best, where she didn't overshadow, because a lot of different people would react differently to how MJF was taking the mic from her and taking shots at whoever, and just the way she carried herself and knowing when to step back, let him have the mic. True professional. She added to the segment, not detracted.
100%. I thought she was so much better tonight than the first 2 weeks. So glad to have her there. Let's jump right into the first match of the night.
Can we talk Claudio, please?
Claudio, excuse me. Pardon.
Yeah, let's talk Claudio. So we got Claudio and Wheeler Yuta versus
Chris Jericho and Daniel Garcia.
Yeah. What a match. It was a fun match. I honestly, when Claudio came to AEW, I wasn't excited, because I pretty much just knew Cesaro from WWE's main roster. I wasn't really watching NXT when I hear he had a great run down there. But, like, I didn't know he had this in him, and I'm thoroughly enjoying his work here so far. I think he's done a great job. But what do you think of the whole match with that first match tonight?
I thought, again, they do a good job, and this is something they've done right even in the darkest days of booking the last couple of months. They set the tone with a match, and again, similar to Nitro, not to be a beating a dead horse here, they set the pace for the night with action. They get right into the ring. Schiavone and Taz run down the card, and then it's right to action with pure mayhem. This whole match was action-packed, and if you're a casual fan turning the channel and just happen to be there from the Big Bang Theory and saw this is a perfect introductory lesson into what AEW is about. And of course, the narration done by William Regal, Excalibur, both of them together is perfection, in my opinion. I think if the announce team for a different show, whether it be Rampage, if we can just get a combo of William Regal and Excalibur for a full show, I'd be all about it, man. They're just the perfect mesh of funny, intelligent stories, knowing when to let the other call the moves, and also it's a perfect like a baseball commentary team where like everybody knows their role, and William Regal and Excalibur definitely know their role. Obviously, Taz and stuff get involved, but Regal and Excalibur were amazing on commentary tonight.
They're Regal's amazing in everything he does. Excalibur is just a consummate pro. Like, he's become the best announcer in wrestling today. He really has. In the 3 years he's been doing Dynamite, he's elevated his game. And how could you not when you're sitting next to Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone? I'm sure he's got to pick their minds. I'm sure they're giving him tips. And you could tell like how much Nick's loving my facial hair here. Thank you. I guess that's what you could see with my camera, with my iPhone.
There you go.
So, guys, you can now use your iPhone as a webcam, and that's what I'm doing today to check it out to see how it works. So that's why the camera angle looks different. It's definitely a lot sharper. So it's just fun.
So Yuta got a huge round of applause. It was his birthday, by the way. I'm not sure if Virginia knew that, but they were really behind him. Casanoli, I mean, they both were getting involved with Jericho and Garcia. This match was amazing. We saw the Blackpool Combat Club getting the win here. Were you shocked to see Jericho take the pin?
I wouldn't say shocked, but no, it just tells story. It leads up to more story. You
Clean,
know,
too. Clean as a whistle.
Getting a rematch. He just pinned the Ring of Honor champion. Like, yeah, I thought it worked. I thought it really worked in this situation.
It just shows how selfless Jericho's been, where Daniel Garcia seems like any other big name would be like, all right, if we're losing, Garcia's taking the pin here, or if I'm getting pinned, the faces have to do something, whatever, to just damage me. No, it was a clean uppercut, and that was it. Jericho took the pin, and doesn't damage Jericho by any means. He's still a legend. He's still the Ring of Honor World Champion, and that is what these old-time wrestlers, like, this is what Jericho sets him aside from guys like Hogan, you know, guys that were in the past that were living for themselves. He is planting seeds for a tree that he's not going to be able to sit under. I said it last week. Daniel Garcia is going to be doing bigger and better things long after Jericho's retired.
That's true.
So this is another example of it. A guy like Claudio too. It just helps Claudio's momentum. Obviously, Jericho, he could probably go in there and say, "Tony, I want to go over tonight," and he probably would let him go over. But we know the story is better.
Do that if it was going to tell a solid story. Like, Jericho is there for the product, for making everything better. He's not there to put himself over just for the sake of putting himself over.
100%.
So, let's talk about. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, I think that's what's lost on a lot of people. That's what they don't appreciate. We all talk about Jericho being in amazing shape for his age. Yeah. The fact he's still wrestling 30 years later, and he's still wrestling at a high level, and his storytelling is the best on the show always. Everything going on in him, it's mostly the highlights of every show he's involved in. People take for granted how good he is with giving back.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different talent that they don't give back. They come in and cash their check. They make a lot of money. They put themselves over. Jericho is thinking about the future, and that's a progressive mindset that he, among other people, didn't have back in the day.
If you look at the 3-year history of AEW, the two stars that have consistently told stories for the 3 years are MJF and Chris Jericho. Always involved in one of the best stories on the show. Always.
And stuck with it. I mean, the JAS stuff, there was a lot of criticism towards it that I was like, what the hell is this thing? And Jericho looks lost, and maybe he's lost a step. Nope, it's amazing. The whole thing has been amazing, and seeing it through. And it's long storytelling that allows people to get invested in the characters that get involved. And it also has branches that reach out and other people benefit. We see a guy like Daniel Garcia ultimately is the main guy that benefited, but who knows who else? I mean, think about Matt Menard.
Yeah, I love that.
Think about Angelo Parker. Where would these guys be without the JAS?
Yeah, it works. It just works, the JAS. But what I love, like getting back to the show telling stories tonight, we cut right to Renee interviewing Bryan Danielson about what happened last week with the interview with Wheeler Yuta. And just as that's happening, here comes Claudio and Wheeler Yuta walking through, and it tells more story. It's when Claudio drops the line, "Hey, listen, you have a match. Go do your match. We'll talk about this later." I love them just walking into the interview like that. It feels like kind of what Triple H has done in WWE with like integrating things backstage together. But I just want to say, here we go. Where is it? There was a comment that somebody made earlier.
Let me just say quick, that's a really good point on your end with the immersive backstage area where in the past it feels very sedentary, where it's either you're backstage with Tony Schiavone, you're in the locker room, there's no other involvement. What I really enjoyed what Triple H, like you mentioned, was doing on Raw that first night, you got people, different personalities, different wrestlers walking behind them. It feels like a living, breathing environment.
Yes.
That just feels organic. This felt the same way here, like you mentioned.
100%.
Anybody can just walk in at any given time. It feels chaotic and it also feels natural. Not so I'm standing in the back with Tony Schiavone and I'm walking away doing a Rampage commercial. It feels very organic, not robotic.
So here's the comment that King of Hueso Mundo said. Guys, I hate to say this, but AEW has been the better product out of WWE. Honestly, WWE is getting stale to me again. I'm not going to go on a big rant. I'm enjoying not everything is getting stale. It's still way better than it was, but Raw is just kind of eh. So I definitely think AEW has definitely been the better product the last 2 to 3 months. So.
I'm certainly partially AEW. That's where my I watch more of it. I'm more invested in the product because of the characters. WWE has improved, but the bar was so goddamn low for so long that I think everyone was so shocked with, wow, they're telling intelligent stories and they're actually making sense for once. And they're pushing Finn Balor. Fuck yeah. Like all that stuff is great. And I'm not taking it away from it.
Yeah.
But you got to do a little bit more with it. And
yes, I'm not saying
I have faith. I have faith, man. I have faith in Triple H. I think it's going to be great, but I'm also.
I don't think you could judge Triple H fully until like a year from now. That's when you look back and say, what has he done? Because the stuff, he's still working with a lot of stuff that was planted before he got there. But this is the wrap up, the AEW wrap up show. And we could sit here and debate that all we want, but I just wanted to.
No, it's a good point. It's good. The immersive background is a very good point. I think that
I love it. I love it.
People probably don't notice it directly, but it also affects the viewer as it's a positive where it feels, oh man, like Bryan Danielson gets interrupted by Wheeler Yuta and Claudio. It feels very interactive.
Yeah. We got a great Bryan Danielson match versus Sammy Guevara. And what do you think? He just beat him cleanly in the ring. He passed out. I thought these two put on a hell of a match.
Great match, and I love the edge we're seeing from Bryan Danielson. It's been a while since we've seen that edge from him, and it seems like he's finally getting to his limit with all the stuff that's been going down, not only with the Blackpool Combat Club, but feeling spurned by Daniel Garcia, who he took under his wing. So there's a lot to be said here. I was thinking the other day, watching all the main players that got pushed, and obviously Bryan Danielson, I was pounding that drum that I think he should have won the world title at Grand Slam. I thought he should have beat Moxley. Chances are, I think down the line, we're going to hear Bryan Danielson was probably insisting that he loses because he wants to put over other talent. And that's probably what goes on there. Cause I know Tony Khan didn't bring him in to do what he's been doing inside plot stories. That being said, Bryan Danielson felt like a main event player here. Him and Sammy went out there and did a great job. And the main thing here is getting Sammy back on track where it's not about the outside bullshit, not about the drama in the back. It's not about the stuff that's happening that people, the negative connotations of why people want to present Sammy in a bad way. It was about the in-ring action. Bryan Danielson, Sammy went out there and stole the show. And it also has a story that tells it in there because, again, BCC versus the JAS, and this is a way you can get these guys intertwined. And this is the perfect matchup of old school versus new school and two different styles. Like as much as Sammy can go out there and do the ground and pound and the technical stuff, we know that he always likes to take flight, and Danielson can do some of the same, not as high flying as Sammy. These guys are great at the springboard moonsault off the top to the floor was a great spot. Sammy just got outsmarted by the wily veteran. That was the story that we were pretty much saying. And like you said, you know, the Blackpool Combat Club went 2-0 on the night at that point.
I feel like Danielson's got that edge back he came in with when he was on an unbelievable run of just beating everybody, wrestling every week.
Yeah.
He had that back tonight. But here's one thing. I'll be a little critical here.
Sure.
I'm so tired of the two tunnels on the stage because Danielson's still coming out of the heel tunnel. He's getting a reaction. He's feeding to the crowd. I think it's get a new stage with one exit ramp or get it right, because you have JAS coming out of the heel tunnel and then their opponent coming out of the heel tunnel. Just doesn't mesh for me.
Is that every week? Because I feel like he's come out of the face tunnel other weeks.
Come out of the face tunnel.
Really? That's a good observation.
Yeah, I watch every week and I'm like, why is he coming out of the heel tunnel? So, and for Mox, we don't know what tunnel he comes out of because he comes out of the crowd.
Very, very good point. Where did the BCC come out of this week?
They come out of the face tunnel.
Weird.
Yes, exactly.
That is
weird.
We have
a faction coming out of both sides of the tunnel. Let's fix the tunnel, guys. Let's get it together. It's just a little nitpicky thing. it's just
I don't know, but maybe they're just trying to make people think about Bryan Danielson's behavior.
Yeah, well, after tonight, he definitely seemed like he had that heel's edge back. So maybe he's about to exit the Blackpool Combat Club. Where this goes, I don't even know. Like it's kind of fun to see where this is going, what directions it's going. I'm glad Danielson didn't win a title at All Out or at Grand Slam, because I didn't want his first title reign here, or even his only title reign, just to be the holder, just to pass the title on to MJF in that story.
I agree with you, but like the way I looked at it, was like, who knows if he's ever going to get the opportunity again. I don't see him eventually getting back on that pedestal, because MJF's going to win the title. He's not having a short run. Maybe he's the guy that takes it from MJF, but probably not. Like, when is Bryan ever going to win the title? I don't think it's happening.
I'll tell you this. It could happen, but I'm not sold now as much as I was that MJF's going to win the title at Full Gear. I was sold up until tonight. Now I'm thinking, can the firm screw him out of winning the title at Full Gear?
Never say never with Mox, but it feels like he's promised time off, and MJF, you're doing it in New Jersey. It's right in the metropolitan area. It's the second best thing to being on Long Island or in New York. It's right there. Have his crowning moment. And like I said, it's the perfect opportunity to send Moxley off packing and have him come back as a heel repackage, where I carried this goddamn company through the pandemic and through this Punk bullshit, and you guys turned on me and were chanting MJF and we're behind him in the match. It's the perfect way to do it. Boom, double switch.
They could still do it and not have him lose the title. I just don't know what's going to happen anymore. I thought for sure that MJF was winning the title, and just with this whole firm thing, I could see them costing him the title. So.
You definitely have your finger on the pulse of a lot of things where, again, you've been watching wrestling for a long time, so I do trust your gut instinct on this, but I'd be shocked if MJF doesn't win, because with wrestling, you got to strike while the iron's hot, dude. Like, you don't want to not do it.
I still think he's going to win. I'm just saying I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't. Does that
Fair.
make sense?
Then I guess they're doing their job there. They're creating some reasonable doubt.
Knowing a guy is going to win.
100%.
No, so the fact that they've built up a little bit of a question in my mind is a good job on them.
Do you think they're going to bring up the other, AEW does do this, but bring up the footage of when they wrestled, I think we saw it summer 2020, where it was Mox versus MJF and he wasn't allowed to use the paradigm shift and he used it anyway. They should definitely bring that back into storytelling, because technically Mox beat him, but
I think MJF already said in one of his promos a couple of weeks ago that he cheated.
He was undefeated at that point until that moment.
Yeah. And MJF he referenced that a couple of weeks ago, that Mox cheated to win that match.
Good point.
He wasn't allowed to move that match, so to use that move. So definitely fun. I'm loving this right now.
So let's talk quickly about the FTR and the Swerve in Our Glory match. You had said prior to us going on air that you hated this decision. Tell us why, and everything that went into it.
I guess I'm thinking about it now, and I absolutely hated it. But if you have FTR win this match, they're like the hottest tag team in wrestling for the last year, I'd say, right? They have all these tag team belts. So if they win this match, they have to fight. They'd fight the Acclaimed, say, at Full Gear. How do you not put them over? I guess they're not ready to put them over the Acclaimed yet. So I guess in that sense, it kind of makes sense. And it wasn't a clean finish. So I hated it. I don't want to see FTR taking the pin here, but I guess they did it in a way to protect them at the same time. I still wasn't a fan of it. I hate Swerve in Our Glory. I'm done with them. So I think in their final match versus the Acclaimed, was the rubber match, the third match. I think we're going to see this is where Swerve and Keith Lee break up and start a story of their own.
Yeah, and you said exactly why I enjoyed it. I do not want the Acclaimed and FTR going at it just yet, because you want to separate them as far as possible. The two most over teams on the roster, as you alluded to. The Acclaim may be more over than the FTR now because they cooled off FTR so big, but as the match goes on, people remember their allegiance and they go all out for FTR, and the pop that they get is just exceptional. But I think right now you can't have that match immediately, and you book yourself into a corner if you have FTR go over. And I think it's the best thing possible to have a shady finish, the Gun Club get involved here. We have a mini story going on here, FTR and the Gun Club, which also helps the Guns, who are future tag champions if everything goes right. So I don't think FTR is going to lose to the Guns, but just working with them on a consistent basis, say at Full Gear, was going to be essential to their growth as a team. And we get Swerve in our glory. The Acclaimed obviously should go over at Full Gear, like you mentioned. And, you know, Swerve and Keith Lee break up. You go to have their own side story, and hopefully you can get 2 main eventers out of this. I know people are critical of Keith Lee and don't like him, but I think Swerve has potential to be a main player, maybe in the upper mid card, but also in the main event if you book him the right way. I think he's a super talented dude.
NT or Mid Atlantic champion.
For sure. I think he could be an all-Atlantic champion or TNT, but he also could be a main eventer if you push him right. Obviously, in a different world where the main event isn't so chock full of guys that are well-deserving of runs, he could be up there. You can also lend him out to Impact if you want to work with them. I would love to see Swerve work in New Japan Pro Wrestling as well. Be amazing.
Can I tell you one thing that I hate?
Go for it.
I hate Warjo.
Same.
Hate it. What are they doing with your TNT champion? Why is he involved in a story? Why isn't he defending his title? I guess he's defending the title now, but he should be involved in a singles feud. This is just garbage. It's my least favorite thing on AEW right now.
It's kind of remnants of the last few months of booking where it just feels disjointed and they're just throwing guys together. This is straight from that playbook of Tony Storm and Thunder Rosa. Thunderstorm, like you just put 2 guys together. I think down the line we're going to get Wardlow versus Wardlow, Wardlow versus Samoa Joe,
Wardlow versus Wardlow.
Hell yeah, like the old school SmackDown versus Raw. You just have
like Undertaker versus Undertaker.
Hell yeah, take Wardlow. But yeah, Samoa Joe versus Wardlow would be an epic match. Maybe title for title if you want to consolidate the TV title, or have Wardlow win the title and have him get involved in Ring of Honor. Something. Just give Wardlow something to do. He's done nothing since he's won the TNT title. He's feuded with Mark Sterling. He's feuded with the security guards. And he's done zilch. He's been TNT champion for months now. He's done nothing.
I love Wardlow and I love Samoa Joe. And this whole thing is just a big fat 0 for me.
Yeah, and on Rampage this Friday, obviously live, it's a different feel. He's defending the title against Matt Taven. We know Matt Taven, even though he's fresh off a multi-year deal with AEW, we know he's part of the Kingdom. He's not beating Wardlow for the TNT title. So again, I ask you, why am I tuning in to watch this, where this guy is supposed to be this transcendent future star, where this big man, they do high-flying stuff. You had this immense push. He destroyed MJF on pay-per-view at Double or Nothing. Had that huge epic moment with the ring and turning and helping Punk, and done nothing. Momentum, like literally hot as ever, threw him on ice immediately. Same thing with FTR. Throw him on ice.
Eric, real quick, I want you to write in the comments what you mean by this. What kind of a swerve? I'm curious. And as you're typing out, let's just talk about Jamie Hayter going over RIHO. Super happy to see Jamie Hayter put on another great match, get a clean win, helping build her to the star that she is. I feel like Saraya coming in has kind of slowed down the separation of Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter, but it's been teased for so long. I'm so ready for that separation and to see Jamie Hayter go out on her own. She's a star. She's a fucking star.
Yeah, this is, again, striking while the iron's hot. Jamie Hayter's hotter than ever, and this was a difficult place to put her in because you had a RIHO just who returned a couple weeks ago. She's really popular too. There was dueling chants in the beginning of the match, but at the end of the match, everyone was chanting for Jamie Hayter. She seems undeniable. She seems like the people's choice as far as the next women's champion to take the title off Toni Storm. And it seems like we're going to be getting that match at Full Gear. We may get that moment, whether it's a triple threat or just one-on-one. We're going to get Jamie Hayter, and I think it's time to put the title on her. If that wasn't the plan, I don't care. Swerve from the plan. I need you to get the title on Jamie Hayter immediately.
Can we please stop with the women's triple threat and quadruple, whatever, fatal 4-ways that you're doing with the women's title all the time? Can we just start getting singles matches with them? Like it's been the last couple of pay-per-views. It was at Grand Slam. Let's stop that. There's no need for that. Let these women shine in singles matches.
Well, I think my prediction for Full Gear, it's going to be a triple threat. It's going to be Hayter versus Britt Baker versus Toni Storm. Britt's going to steal the win the title, and then they're going to build up the next pay-per-view. It's going to be Britt versus Jamie for the title, and that's the moment they're going to put the title on Jamie. But I don't know if you want to wait that long. There's all the momentum right now.
Should have called the audible back at All Out when they heard how over she was. She should have
for a crowd that was tired. They wanted nothing to do with any other match.
Yep.
After the Acclaimed and Swerve in Our Glory took all the energy out of the building. This match was
They were
set
there
up for you to.
JAMIE HAYTER. They did not care about anybody else in that match.
Nope,
So,
you're right.
And when somebody, listen, I criticize WWE for this all the time. When somebody's going over organically, you got to push them. And it's the same thing here. It's the same exact thing here. Push this girl. People want to root for her. They want to see her go on this big run. Let's give it to her. She deserves it. She's worked her ass off. She's great in the ring. She's a super nice person. So let her get her due. She's very well. And you know what? It's perfect timing because she has her first figure hitting shelves really soon. So
yeah, and Thunder did her first post-injury appearance on a podcast, and she had been discussing all the issues, and she alluded to some of the drama that went down and the differences between her and Britt Baker. And there's some trouble in paradise with Thunder Rosa. There's been a lot of developmental talent that they use on a weekly basis on Dark and Elevation that were Thunder Rosa people, like friends of Thunder Rosa, and they're not being used anymore. It seems like she's poisoned the water a little bit for herself in the back, and people think that she's exaggerating her injury. And there's got to be some faith left in her because they didn't strip her of the title completely. It's an interim champion, so they fully expect her to be back. But I think she muddies the water too much in a bad way. I don't think she should be involved in the title picture. Like, just get her out.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I love what Thunder Rosa did up until she won the title. I want
the Thunder from GCW. I want the badass that was around prior in the NWA Thunder.
I want the Thunder Rosa that was there that fought Britt in the Lights Out match last year. And up until she won a title, when she won the title is when she went south. It's like it's when they started giving her the mic to talk more, and she doesn't have the skills on the mic to be talking. The top of the ramp champ, like.
But similar to, I guess, we talked about Hangman before and being critical of his title reign. Yeah. How much of his booking and how much is his presenting her and something, getting her to do something like she's not comfortable with. She's clearly not a promo person.
Yeah, yeah, she really isn't. You don't put somebody in a spot like that isn't a promo person.
Week after week, like it wasn't like once.
They go out there, like why isn't Vicky Guerrero with her?
Or just like have her go out as a badass champion. There's no reason everybody has to cut a promo. Taz didn't cut promos.
You can write a promo for somebody. You don't have to let them go out there and try and cut a promo on their own if they're not good for it. You can help them. And maybe that would help her. But listen, agreed. Kurt Angle cut great promos and everything he had was a script. So that might favor her. That might help her. That might be what she needed. So
Kurt Angle was in the news, by the way, too. Did you catch that today?
Yes.
He won a $3 million for 10 matches with AEW.
Yeah. And Tony Khan told him.
Would that have been worth it to you? Would you like to see Kurt Angle get a run here?
No, I didn't. I mean, after his last WWE one, you obviously could tell it wasn't the same Kurt Angle that we loved years ago. He wasn't moving the same. I don't know how he is now after all of his surgeries, if it's helped a lot of his pains. He still
has Impact vibes in a bad way.
You see him walk and you could tell he's in pain still. He's not moving like a young guy. He's acting like a guy who's wrestled for 15, 20 years. So,
yeah.
You know, he won the friggin' gold medal with a broken friggin' neck. So, guy's had his due. He doesn't need any more to embarrass him.
No, agreed. They did a good job of that on his last run with Baron Corbin beating him at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I agree.
Garbage. So before we get to the main event, I just want to read you the cards for next week. So for Rampage coming up on Friday, Claudio and Wheeler Yuta versus Matt Menard and Angelo Parker. We get Madison Rayne versus Ty Mello, and Wardlow defending his TNT title against Matt Taven. Live or not, that's not getting me to watch Rampage. I know they're repackaging it to be something different. It's more the same, in my opinion. It's just it's a TNT, it's a WCW Thunder, and not in a good way.
Yeah, I got you there.
And then for Dynamite coming up next week on November 2nd, and believe it or not, we're in November already. We got Darby Allin versus Jay Lethal. We got a video showing of Darby saying Sting hasn't been around for a while because Darby said he had things to do on his own. We also get the Daddy Ass Birthday Bash. We get Orange Cassidy defending his All-Atlantic Championship against Luchasaurus and Rey Fenix, which should be a banger of a match. Interesting to see if, obviously, if Lucha's losing, Rey Fenix is going to be taking the pin here. But it should be a very interesting dynamic with Luchasaurus. This is the first time he's involved anything not involved with Jungle Boy in this. So start to veer, and I like it.
I do too.
Renee Paquette sits down with Saraya and Dr. Britt Baker. And then the main event, Chris Jericho defending his ROH world title against any former ROH world champion in an open challenge. Any initial thoughts of who that might be?
I mean, I have you're a Ring of Honor guy more than me. So
the only guy left, really, I mean, the guys that are available, Samoa Joe. Like, that's the first guy that popped in my mind. It's going to be Joe versus Jericho.
I feel like that would be advertised. I feel like it's got to be somebody that's not currently there. Just my guess.
Yeah, I can't see who it would be. That, I mean, the only person as far as main guys, I mean, he'd beat Claudio, beat Bryan Danielson. I mean, unless it's going to be like PCO, which I'm definitely down for, a little PCO appearance. Fuck yeah, I'd be all about that. What do you say?
Jonathan Gresham.
Yeah, well, Gresham had his shine. Maybe they're going to bury. Yeah, Gresham's back in GCW doing his thing, by the way, but I don't think he's ready to come back to AEW.
No, I don't think so.
Somehow burn the bridge worse than CM Punk in some way.
And again, we don't know how burned that bridge really is with Punk yet.
So we have the comment, Eric Duhan. Thank you for watching, by the way. He had said the attack on MJF, could it be that they will end up helping MJF win the title, or is this a possible babyface turn for MJF? Tom, I'll let you take the floor on this one.
Well, let me tell you this. Would it shock you if in the end this was a whole plan by MJF to take this beating to make it look like he's not aligned with them? That's an MJF thing to do.
It is.
I hope it's not where it's going.
You don't want to just to swerve, though.
Yeah. It's funny. King of Hueso Mendoza agreeing with what I said earlier. Renee looked like she was back in her groove, and she did a hell of a job today, giving the mic to MJF and the face expressions. We mentioned that earlier when we started the Dynamite talk. She was killer tonight. Yeah, like I don't think. I think what happened tonight is going to be taken at face value with MJF. You know, I think he's going to be kind of that. He's not a heel. He's not a face. He's MJF. People are going to cheer him.
Yeah, because also, why would it be part of his plan to get thrown through a table? It doesn't seem very MJF-like to get his ass beat, like just for the plan.
Just to make it look like he's not aligned with them.
Yeah, but
I don't think
they were on retainer. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like they were these long-term friends. I don't know. I think that'd be weak if that's what they did. I think
I agree. I don't want to see that. I don't think it's that. It just seems like maybe that's something I could have seen a few months ago. I feel like MJF is better than that now.
And he knows it.
I don't think MJF would want to take a beating like that and through the table outside. I mean, I don't think so either, to be honest, but I'm just like speculating. It's fun to speculate about stuff, and it's something I would have been shocked. I wouldn't be shocked to see, but I don't want to see because it kind of reminds you of the whole Luchasaurus Christian Jungle Boy thing, and we don't need to rehash that. We don't need another Big Show guy going back and forth. MJF is too good for that. You can't screw up what he's got going right now. You can't screw it up.
Yeah, just let the tide take it where it goes at this point, and you got to follow it where it goes. And if the fans are organically behind him, which they are, they're chanting his name at any given turn, go with it. And you don't want to go full tilt towards being babyface and be like, I'm here in Virginia, and like, you know, do the Mick Foley cheap pop.
Yeah.
But it was a nice thing. I mean, he ripped on the fans, but he also said the Regal thing's the perfect motivation for acting the way he is right now.
Yeah.
Because it struck a chord in him that he doesn't want to do it dirty. He wants to prove old man Regal wrong, old Will, as he's been calling him, and say, I could do it the right way. I can win the title and I can do it with legitimacy. I don't need any help. And that's not even just being a good guy. That's just, you can even turn it into having an ego. It all makes sense, in my opinion.
Yeah. And again, maybe this is why AEW killing it, the top-notch storylines. I am hyped for wrestling again. I am too, because I don't know exactly where this MJF thing is going. I don't know where this Blackpool Combat Club thing is going, but I'm here for it. I'm totally here for it. It's so much fun.
So before we go, we'd be amiss if we didn't talk about the main event, because I think it was a banger of a main event.
It's time for the main event.
It was absolutely a banger of a main event.
Jon Moxley defeated Penta El Miedo with Alex Abrahantes and retained the AEW World Championship. A lot of criticism going into this match because Penta had no shot at winning. I think Vegas had it at, what were the odds, Tom? What's the worst possible odds you can have for a football game?
Oh my God. Minus 20,000.
That's exactly what Penta was at here. We knew he wasn't winning, but that doesn't take
Dude.
away from the history here. Where
here's
Penta
my
goes
question.
Sure.
Did he win? Did you see that pinfall? To me, it looked like the ref hit 3 before Mox's shoulder came up.
Yeah, there's a lot. I had a lot of criticism with the refs all night, and that was one of them too. There was
Did you see how close that was?
It was very close. Yeah.
I don't know. It looked like he might have been pinned. And WWE, well, former WWE, Vince used to say, if you don't get that shoulder up, you lose the title. So
can you imagine? That's how Penta wins the title.
Penta wins the world title. I don't know. Like, it was so close. He might have actually just gotten it up in time. So
That's the beauty of pro wrestling. But I had a big complaint about the refs. They were distracted so often and they were oblivious to outside interference the whole night. I mean, most obvious, the FTR thing. We had Cash Wheeler being like tackled by the Gun Club at ringside.
Yeah.
And they made a big deal about Paul Turner checking on the refs and cracking down a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that just went out the window. And I know there's been a lot of talk about the referees being lackluster in AEW, and they're definitely not the epitome of what officiating should be in pro wrestling. They leave a lot to be desired as far as what they do.
Honestly, I hate the AEW referees. Here's a hot take. I can't stand Aubrey.
She's definitely not the old school Earl Hebner type of referee. I'll leave it there. Like
Dude, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you tuning in tonight. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Follow us when we go live. We got a lot of shows. And again, thanks for watching.
So for the beginning of this match, Excalibur did mention the Pentagon Triple Mania Mass vs. match with Villano, the fourth, which was a sick match. If you guys checked it out, Triple Mania was great. That epic picture that Penta posted on Instagram, all bloodied up with his mask, pretty much all ripped off. And he said he put everything on the line for that showdown. So I guess losing here can show he was a little bit weakened. But I thought he got a lot of great offense in on Moxley. Moxley, as he does always, sells in a great deal. He didn't bleed, but he did everything but for Penta.
Yeah. So I guess apparently you could bleed on TNT, just not TBS.
There was blood last week on TBS in the Hangman match. Moxley was bleeding.
That was on TV. Oh, why was I thinking it was TNT? I guess it was TBS. It was just on Tuesday night. I'm confusing myself now.
Yeah, it's all good. I mean, I know that will definitely be a topic of discussion going forward with negotiations. I'm sure blood is going to be a hot button issue. Does TBS, TNT, Warner Brothers Discovery want blood on their product? That remains to be seen.
I have to be a little more sport-like. Give me some blood. Tyson,
True.
I can't stand Aubrey because the referee's not supposed to be seen, and I feel like she steals the spotlight from the wrestlers sometimes when she's reffing, and that's never supposed to happen. Unless it's a story, and she doesn't do it for story. And again, I don't know if it's her fault because I feel like a lot of their referees do it. I feel like it might be a directive from Tony Khan or something because it's just too consistent with all their referees. So
yeah, they need one of those old school referees like Brian
Chioda is available. Get him in there.
Who?
Like Chioda, however you say.
Oh yeah, I would be down for that, or Brian Hebner, or someone like that.
Chioda makes appearances there every so often. He comes into ref a match. So you got Robert King there.
Get Robert King in a referee shirt, man. Goddamn.
Yeah, for sure. Let him teach those referees how to ref. Go listen to the Turnbuckle sessions when I had him on there and hear what he has to say about reffing and what he thinks. So
Robert King, he was referee in NWA. His brother was a referee in WWE for a long period of time, Impact Wrestling. So he is an exemplary officiating. Easy for me to say, pal. Officiating official. He follows the rules. He knows the rules. And he makes sure that everybody is following him in the ring, which you cannot say about the AEW product.
Yeah. Let me tell you, if he did a 3 count on Mox, as you know, he would have had the bell rung. He told us stories about
Get your goddamn shoulder up, bro.
Yeah. Listen, that's the story he told on Sessions. If you want to hear it, go listen.
So there was a couple of good spots in this match. And again, I talked about how Moxley made Penta look good. And it was important because Penta is 1/3 of the trios champions and he's coming off of the momentum from the Triple Mania match and all that. So you want to make sure he's looking strong. You don't want just Mox burying your talent. And that was nothing like that this match. So the ending saw Penta fighting out of the corner. He super kicked the leg out of Moxley, which was a good spot, fell down, hit a double stomp off the top rope into the Fear Factory. This was the near fall you're talking about. Super near fall. Did he get his shoulder up? Maybe he didn't, but it's pro wrestling. We know, obviously predetermined, but damn, it was close. Go back and watch it. Penta opted for the pose.
Check out our social media. I'm going to make a short of that in slow motion.
He tried to springboard, fell into the paradigm shift, and Moxley didn't end there. It could have pinned him after the paradigm shift. Then he went in for an even further paradigm shift, which he calls the Death Rider, in a very good main event. I thought this was the perfect way to, the ending has to be Moxley winning. But still, great main event.
Absolute great main event. I'm going to be a little nitpicky. Just a little. And I've said this before. And tell me how you feel about this. But I hate champions being pinned in other matches when they're currently champions in the league. Like he's a trios championship and you're feeding him to. It wasn't fed to Mox. It was a great match. I don't want to see that. I hate that. They did it a couple weeks ago. They had Tony Storm lose on the same night that I think it was Ray Phoenix lost. So and got pinned. Like, don't do that. It's just
I don't hate that criticism at all. I do think you need to treat your champions as important, but I think they did a good job. I mean, John Moxley's the cream de la cream here. Like, we know he's the guy, the apex. So him beating Penta doesn't make him look bad, especially that Penta took him to the limit.
Yeah.
If he was just to squash him, I'd be all about it. But they do it a lot. We saw Pac lose and be the trios champion. So that damages the trio side. Both those guys losing. I guess the argument we can make is they're better as a trio. They can't be beaten as a trio, but single action they can be.
Yeah. I just find another opponent.
Yeah, the roster's deep enough. You don't really need to do this match. You could definitely have someone who's not a champion take him to the limit.
Yeah, 100%. The roster is friggin' lock, stocked, and loaded. So they have a great roster. Real quick question before we go. We saw they just keep signing people to contracts here.
Yep.
Do you think it's ever going to stop or not? I mean, I guess eventually some people's contracts, I guess a couple of the original contracts within the last 6 months have expired. Just like, it's like, wow, you're still signing people.
Yeah, I think a big thing, obviously, we keep saying it week after week, is when ROH gets settled, and it seems like that's on the verge. We're going to get an ROH deal, and if you can have people exclusive ROH, it would ease the burden quite some bit here. We're going to have ROH have their own roster exclusive to them, and you won't have to worry about everybody being cluttered on one show. I do think there's still some fat to be trimmed on the main roster right now. So bringing guys like the Kingdom, I think at this point, I look at it this way. Like when I was, this is funny. This is the thing I think about with the roster. When I was getting the pro wrestling crate, it would come with like 3 shirts every time. So I had so many goddamn wrestling shirts. In order for me to keep the shirts, I'd have to get rid of shirts that I put back in. So I didn't want to have. So I think at this point, Tony Khan, the edict should be, if you want to sign somebody, the Kingdom's worth it, get rid of 3 guys.
Yeah.
Find 3 guys to cut.
I'll tell you what I do with my shirts. I don't know how we get this.
Shirts.
But I have my closet of shirts, and I always put them back on the left side. And then I look, the things totally on the right means I haven't wore them. So then I have to go when I get new shirts. So
and there's plenty of people that need clothing. So it's, if I have a wrestling shirt or a band shirt or a t-shirt I don't wear, I'm donating to the nearest Salvation Army, wherever, just donating them, and see you later.
It's just like my Aaron Boone shirt. I'm going to wipe my ass with it. Oh, I don't have it.
Well, he's coming back. So
I'm so upset about that.
We'll talk about that, man. I mean, you and I could talk about it. We'll have our therapy session about the Yankees. I'm still in mourning right now.
Oh my God. I'm you know what? I'm more angered than in mourning at this point.
The whole series angered me, but I got to just say the Astros are the better team. They're more well-built, and they're just the better team at this point. They're in the World Series 4 out of 6 years. Like, they're doing something right.
That's all I'm going to say is I don't feel like the Astros beat the Yankees as much as I feel like the Yankees handed the Astros the win.
It's hard to say that when you're swept, though. Like, they had better pitching. Their bullpen was better, timely hitting. They did everything right. The Yankees could have won every game, but the Astros are just a more well-built team. Not just this year, for the last 7 years. Their system is just churning out talent.
If you're not Yankee fans, we're boring you. We're here to talk about AEW. I think we covered it all. This was a friggin' awesome, fun show tonight, Ace.
It was a lot of fun. It was great to have you back on here, and I know you popped in a little bit last week, but hopefully we get the 3 of us, and maybe Freems will join us soon. We have a whole bunch of different layouts that Chad was so gracious to make us, and these look great, man. Pops
on all the layouts. He did new layouts for Fig Night. They're so much fun. It's just, I feel like it's more lively with these things added in. So great. Thank you to Chad for his hard work and getting all this stuff done.
Hell yeah. And I guess let's just do some hyping. What's going on your end, Tom? And obviously you guys had an awesome episode of Fig Night just last night.
Yeah, Frig Night every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. I won't be there this Tuesday, so Mike will either be going solo or we haven't figured it out yet. I have to work Tuesday. They scheduled me to work a Tuesday. How dare they? But every Tuesday night, if you're collecting wrestling figures and other wrestling memorabilia, we talk about other stuff as well. We want jump on, watch. It's fun. Talk about figs with us. I've got figs all over the place over here. Here's my I forgot my camera's up here now. The Sabu figure just sitting right in front of me right here.
Oh, that's the Heels and Faces line by Zombie Sailor, right?
Yeah, it's such a fun line. Like another one, he kills. Everybody else should stop doing remakes of Hasbro's because.
Speaking of refs, there we go. That's the epic one.
Yeah, there's the Earl Hebner right there, baby.
How is that in scale as far as the Hasbro's? Are they exactly the same size?
They're absolutely perfect. Where's my Demolition? I don't know where I put Demolition. They're not reachable, but they're great. Look, I got good old JR right here, and his
Oh, he looks great.
Yeah. It's a great friggin' figure. So, and it comes with the chair. So
awesome.
Just check out Fig Night, and me and Mike are discussing sessions, and hopefully by next week we're back up and running and get our schedules figured out. So, and he's been sick and a whole bunch of stuff. So we miss it. We both miss it, and hopefully we get it back every week starting this week. So starting next Wednesday.
Yeah, fingers crossed. You guys have a lot to talk about, and obviously you guys usually dive deep into old wrestling, but you guys can talk about the current day product, dive deep into something.
We go all over the place.
Yeah.
So tell us, what do you got for Shot of Nostalgia this week, Ace?
So this week we have 2 episodes of Nitro. We're at episode 28 out of 30. So we're at the tail end of 1996. So we are circling the drain of 1996, and the time traveling machine is going to be returning home soon. But fear not, we're going to be having a good finale. We have 3 episodes for episode 30, Starrcade, 1996, and then obviously the final day, December 30th, 1996. A lot to talk about. We have Roddy Piper. We're talking about Macho Man's impending contract. Mr. Perfect's coming over to WCW and talking about his impact and Mike's opinion on if he thought he lived up. In my opinion, from the outside looking in, Mr. Perfect's run in WCW was wildly disappointing. So I'm interested to see. We're going to miss his in-ring debut, but I'm definitely going to continue on the side. As a side note, I'm going to be watching WCW 1997 on my own because I'm just going to continue it on my own. And if we cover it, we cover it. But season 2 of Shot of Nostalgia is going to be ECW 1995. It's a shorter season, but that first episode will be November 18th, 2022. So stay tuned for that. We have about, I think, 12 episodes of different special events. We're going to be covering the newsletter, same format, different layout. It's going to be probably, I say it now, but shorter episodes because of the fact the newsletter is not as in-depth. There's not a lot that Meltzer talks about ECW. He does cover it a lot, but not to the level of WCW. So should be fun. And just also want to thank everybody that shouted out some love on my social media for my Remarkable Wrestling announcing debut. It was a lot of fun. And if you guys didn't check out the event, weren't watching it, or you weren't able to go live, if you guys subscribe to IWTV, you can type in Halloween Haunted Havoc, Remarkable Wrestling. The main event is Worth It Alone, Gabriel Sky versus Desmond Cole for the Remarkable Heavyweight Championship. Again, I appreciate the well wishes from everybody. Everyone was reaching out and saying, you know, congratulations and whatever. And it was, I had the time of my life doing it. It was a good time.
That's awesome, dude. I got to check out the video. I want to see your work.
Yeah, I also shared a reel too on my Instagram if you guys just want to check it out quick during the main event, doing the intros. So a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to working with Remarkable Wrestling in the future. Stay tuned for different events. They didn't announce their next event coming up in the upcoming months, so I'm sure they have something up there. Also, too, Turnbuckle Tavern is going to be returning to Victory Pro Wrestling for the November 19th show, which is Disorderly Conduct, which happens to be the same day as Full Gear. So
I was going to say, that date sounds familiar.
It does sound familiar. So there's a couple indie shows running for some reason. Saturday, November 19th, we have NYWC running a show, VPW running a show, but my commitments are to the tavern, to the merch table, and giving out stickers and stuff. And I will watch Full Gear as soon as I get home. But my responsibilities for VPW, they are lovely enough to allow me to go there with all the stuff and hype up the tavern and film some content. So I will be there in person. So if you guys, I will make the graphic as it comes closer. But if you guys are in the area, it's in Bayshore, New York. If you guys are available, come out and see, you know, what VPW does mainly, because the in-ring action is remarkable. And you guys can check out their champion, Jack Tomlinson, who's been on my show. He's been on J-Bone's show. He's all over the place. The guy has like 150,000 TikTok followers. So he's a pretty popular guy. There's a lot of different guys. Obviously, Desmond Cole's the New York State champion. He's the guy who was just on Visit the Tavern. So a lot to go with there. So again, I'll hype it up as it gets closer. And of course, we have Joey Conway visiting the tavern mid-November. I believe that will be airing November 18th. But go back and check out Chad and Chad talking to Ninja Mac. How epic was that?
That's awesome.
So sick. So that's my rant there. I appreciate the support from everybody. Everyone's so lovely, and you guys are the best. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the wrap up, man. This has been a lot of fun.
This was great. I had a ton of fun. I can't wait for next week's Dynamite. I can't wait for the wrap up show. I guess that's it for tonight. Until then, love, peace, and pro wrestling.